It's time for the Newsmaker Show on News Talk AM 1480 WLEA.
As always, on a Friday, Dr. Robert Hyneman is our guest, Alfred University professor of political science. Dr. Hyneman, thanks for stopping in.
My pleasure. Let's see what's going on out there today.
I'll tell you what's going on the Fusion Channel. Vicente Fox, the former president of Mexico, came on and he said two things that really stood out. One, doesn't matter what Trump says, Mexico is not building a wall. He even used a swear word there.
Oh.
Two, Fox is worried that 44% of Hispanics in Nevada voted for Donald Trump. First question, your response to the idea that Mexicans are not building a wall that Donald Trump wants. That's what Vicente Fox said.
Well, I think the Donald can say anything he wants, and he will find, if he becomes president, that saying something and doing something, there's quite a gap at that point. Now, again, his point is that he's willing to do whatever it takes. I don't know, Brian. It's something that's pretty hypothetical at this point, and frankly, I don't think we should tire our listeners out too much with these hypotheticals.
Okay, how about the heavy Hispanic turnout for Trump in Nevada? That seemed to surprise Vicente Fox.
Yes, well, I don't know if that's true. I think that's pretty impressive for Trump. I guess Rubio kept pushing the fact that his family had lived in Las Vegas for, I guess, 6 years. Plus, of course, he's Hispanic. But did not do that well. So, again, I think Trump at this point is on a considerable roll. And I think Super Tuesday, he may well come looking out pretty well. I think the key there is the Texas primary, where at this point he's almost neck and neck with Ted Cruz. Now, you would assume Ted Cruz would win the Texas primary, it being his home state and him having won several statewide elections already there. But if Trump beats him there, they'll split some delegates, but that would be pretty devastating, I think, for the Cruz people. The other primary is the one in Florida to keep an eye on, which I believe is March 15th. That, of course, is Rubio's home state, and that's a winner-take-all primary, and it's the largest group of Republican delegates in terms of winner-take-all. It's 99 delegates, I believe, to the convention. And right now, Trump is up on Rubio in Florida 18, 20 points. So there's going to have to be one heck of a turnabout there for Rubio to win in his own home state. And if he can't pull that off, I think Trump is going to be awfully hard to stop. The one problem is Cruz may still be hanging around. He may be picking up delegates here and there. I don't know. Super Tuesday will break some of that out. Some of those states are winner-take-all. I'm thinking maybe Massachusetts is. I'm not sure, and I think Trump will probably do pretty well there as well. In fact,
Massachusetts is part of it.
Yeah, and I think it's winner-take-all. I'm not sure. But the point is, in most of those primaries on Tuesday, Trump is ahead. So he could come out of there looking pretty good. But again, with a lot of the states giving portioned delegates, he's not going to be able to really sweep. But it would be a tremendous embarrassment for Cruz if Trump beats him in Texas. So that's my view. I don't know. We could go state by state, but I would expect, for example, in a state like Minnesota, I would hope Kasich would do better. But again, he's starting late. He's starting slowly. I don't know if he's going to be able to pick up the cudgels. The problem with Rubio is, frankly, is pretty shallow. although it does appear that the Koch brothers have kicked in behind him. They've one of their top campaign people apparently has moved on to Rubio's staff, and that means that these independent PACs, political action committees, can pour in millions and millions of dollars to Rubio and on behalf of what Rubio stands for, etc. But it's getting late to do that, and so at this point, the campaign looks like it's pretty heavily in Trump's favor. And I don't know if you watched on Drudge. I think he has had a report Thursday, this political science professor at Stony Brook. Now, you got to be a little careful of political science professors. Let's say that right up front. But he claims he has a model for presidential elections, which has been correct I forget how many times. And his model shows that Trump has something like a 97% chance of being president. So he's throwing in factors like the economy, demographics, a number of other things. And so there you go. Political science is tossing in its analytical findings there.
Well, the delegate count, this is from Associated Press. Trump 82, Cruz 17, Rubio 16, Kasich 6, Carson 4. Your thoughts on the delegate count?
Well, I think obviously Trump is way ahead. I think his problem is I think he needs 1,200 delegates for the majority, a little over 1,200 for the Republican convention. The problem he may well have is candidates like Rubio and Cruz hanging on and skimming off a few delegates here and there, so he can't really crush them like he'd like to do. Now, speaking of crushing, to change the subject a bit here, tomorrow I believe we have the Democrat primary in South Carolina. The key there is Hillary is going to try, speaking of crush, to crush Bernie Sanders, coming off, again, a narrow victory in Nevada, having lost to him in New Hampshire, and maybe having lost to him in Iowa, certainly a very narrow victory. She wants to just crush him in South Carolina, and of course she has a number of the black congressmen and such down there supporting her. Right now, she's up in the polls about 18-20%. If she maintains 20-25%, she can go into Super Tuesday with perhaps claiming some serious momentum. I don't know. I think it is something to watch, though, and I think one thing to watch pretty closely is the black turnout. Obviously, I think the black vote will go heavily for Hillary, maybe 75-25, maybe 70-30. But the question is the turnout. I mean, if you don't get many African Americans voting, it doesn't make too much difference what the spread is. Well, the point I want to make here is that we want to watch to see if the turnout, it can't possibly match the turnout for Barack Obama. And so the question is, how many of these people will actually turn out? Yes, Brian, you had a question?
Dr. Hyneman, a lot is being made of Hillary Clinton being crashed in South Carolina by a Black Lives Matter activist who talked over Hillary. And the activist blamed Hillary for mass incarceration of blacks in prisons during her husband's administration. The activist was mad because back in the 1990s, Hillary referred to gang members as super predators.
Right.
The activist said that Hillary threw the black community under the bus. The Black Lives Matters group crashing Hillary Clinton. Now, they've done that to Sanders, too. Wondering what's going on here. Why are they crashing Democrat events? It seems like they'd be on the same page because both Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton have made a lot of positive civil rights type of statements.
Well, I think in terms of throwing black voters and black citizens under the bus in the Clinton administration, that's certainly true. That's a problem that the African American community has had. They vote overwhelmingly Democratic, and basically the Democrats take them for granted. And you've really seen that, for example, in New York State, where the Cuomos have simply ignored the black support for the Democrats. And in fact, you had a situation where Mario Cuomo came out as governor and endorsed Giuliani over David Dinkins for mayor of New York City. So the Clintons aren't far away from that at all. So I think they have a point there. On the other hand, the Black Lives Matter, I mean, these guys are way out on the radical edge. So I don't know, how much voting potential they have. But I do think that Bernie Sanders has gotten some support from some fairly well-known black leaders, and maybe not politicians so much, down in South Carolina. So black people have to kind of make up their mind on that. Obviously, people like Clymore, the congressman from there, who was a very powerful black leader in Congress and in South Carolina, obviously, if they give an endorsement, they're going to want to follow up with serious support. And we'll just see. The question will be, can they get those African-American voters out? And if they can't, that's going to be a problem down the line for the Democrats and whoever their nominee is. Now, again, in the primaries up to this point, the caucuses and the primaries, the voting turnout for the Democrats has been way down from what it was 4 years ago, whereas the turnout for the Republican primaries has been way, way up. And I guess we can contribute that to the charismatic Donald Trump. But the problem is for the Democrats, they have a real lack of enthusiasm for their candidates. And that's not a good sign. Additionally, for Hillary to start piling up primary victories in places like Alabama and South Carolina and Georgia, which she probably will, what good that does a Democrat in the general election is not clear to me at all, because those southern states almost across the board go Republican. So I think there are some inherent difficulties there where the Democrats are right now.
Talking with Dr. Robert Hyneman on the Friday Newsmaker Show, breaking for Fox News. Back after this. On the Newsmaker Show, Brian O'Neill on with Dr. Robert Hyneman, Alfred University professor of political science. Dr. Hyneman, can I list off all the states that are voting?
Voting when?
Super Tuesday.
Oh, Super Tuesday. Well, sure. I mean, it's filler. I mean, it takes up time here. Yeah.
Okay, Alabama, Alaska, Arkansas, Colorado, Georgia. Massachusetts, Minnesota, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, Vermont, Virginia. Now, you've commented on, I believe, Alabama, Texas, Massachusetts. How do you see Georgia going?
Well, I think, you mean for the Democrats or the Republicans?
Either.
Well,
both.
Again, I would guess Hillary would do pretty well in Georgia. I believe there's a congressman there, too, who's come out and endorsed her. I think he was from Georgia. I'm not quite sure. I think the problem Bernie has is that he doesn't have the ground game that the Clintons have. And after all, Bill Clinton ran twice, Hillary ran once, so there's a lot of party people out there in those states that they can hook into. And the bottom line will be how enthusiastic are the voters. And I would guess, frankly, they're not going to be terribly enthusiastic in those states, and I would guess the turnout's going to be down again. Massachusetts would be one to watch. There, I would think Bernie Sanders might run pretty well, and certainly I assume he's going to take Vermont. So I think in some ways it'd probably be Hillary would be able to make some victory claims here Tuesday, especially if she nails Bernie in South Carolina by, say, 25, 30 points. She's going to claim that she's really on the way.
On Saturday's South Carolina vote there.
Right.
Dr. Hyneman, how do you think Hillary and Bernie will do in Minnesota and Oklahoma?
Well, I have no idea. I don't see where Bernie would be particularly strong in Oklahoma. I don't know too much about the Oklahoma primary there. And for the Republicans, I think Trump is up substantially. Minnesota, though, you do run into quite a number of college campuses. And it's quite possible that Bernie will turn out some student votes there. I mean, you must have Minnesota, I don't know, 15, 16, maybe 20 different state campuses that if the students turn out, and they tend to be really pretty enthusiastic for Bernie. Again, a point we might make, I'm talking about whether the African-American vote turns out for Hillary. You get all this enthusiasm from students for Bernie, but the fact is they don't vote that much. And so unless you can get them out, you can have all the biggest rallies you want. The question is, who shows up on Election Day?
Any thoughts on Tennessee?
None whatsoever.
How about Alaska or Colorado?
Colorado, you do have the marijuana issue there. And so you may have a lot of people sort of floating to the polls.
If we could go back to Nevada for a moment. At the Republican caucus in Nevada on Tuesday night, Trump first, Rubio second, Ted Cruz third. What do you make of that for the Cruz campaign?
Well, I think Cruz is suffering. But I don't know if he's going to be able to hold together his financial support. But again, I think he has a core kind of basic fundamentalist religious supporters. And Trump's problem is he's going to keep hanging around. So
the Cruz is going to keep hanging around.
Right.
Trump claimed that he got
Rubio
heavy.
Gets wiped out, but go ahead.
Trump claimed that he got heavy evangelical support in Nevada.
I know.
Trump got that.
And I don't know if we have any proof of that or not. I mean, also in Nevada, Bernie Sanders claimed he got the majority of the Hispanic vote, and Hillary's claiming she had the majority of the Hispanic vote. So, again, you'd have to look into those caucuses and try to figure out, where the heavy Hispanic turnout was and which way it went. And there are people that can do that, but we don't have those figures.
Talking with Dr. Robert Hyneman, Alfred University professor of political science. Okay, Dr. Bob, your $64,000 question.
I make predictions.
You don't want to predict November 8th, 2016, who's going to ultimately win at the end of the day?
No. I don't have quite the sophisticated model that guy out at Stony Brook has. So and
he's predicting Trump.
And he said if it's against Bernie, I think it's 97% chance, or 197. The other one's 99 or 98% chance that he'll end up the presidency. And he has Trump beating Hillary something like 54% to 46% or something like that. So he, I'll give the guy credit. He's obviously going to get a little coverage on this, and maybe it's a good thing. But at this point, there's nothing really to prove him wrong.
Talking with Dr. Robert Hyneman. On Monday, we'll be talking with a friend of Dr. Hyneman's, Ralph Rossum, who teaches at the Claremont McKenna College in California. Boy, is he big. Have you Googled his name?
Oh, he's a good man. Ralph is a tremendous human being. I've known him many years, and he has a book out on he and his friend, I forget the guy's name, from Rutgers, have a book out on constitutional law. He has written extensively on the Constitution and on Scalia's approach to the Constitution. He was a good friend of Justice Scalia's. But he's a very good man, and so I think it's tremendous that you're going to be able to talk to him.
Yeah, thanks for that
contact
hello
there. For me, Brian. Yes, indeed.
Sure thing. Thanks for helping line that up there, Dr. Hyneman. That'll be Monday's show. Dr. Hyneman, before we go, okay, this weekend, tomorrow, as you mentioned, we've got South Carolina, and then Tuesday, March 1st, that's Super Tuesday. We listed all the states there. Dr. Hyneman, you say you don't do predictions.
I don't, no.
What thoughts do you have on the next few days?
Well, I think they're important. I think we did predict here did we predict or we suggested that Jeb Bush would pull out after
yeah, you
South Carolina.
Called that one properly.
Yeah, and he did. I think in the question will be how much the margin will be in some of these states, and if we can see kind of a rolling momentum. I think the rolling momentum, if you're going to see anything, whether you like it or not, will be toward Trump. And so at the end of the day, Tuesday, the Donald may be pretty hard to live with.
You think... What do you think about the candidates who are staying in, probably because they're hoping for that Trump faux pas moment that Trump cannot get out of?
Yeah, well, that becomes less and less likely. I don't know how many more verbal screw-ups he could make at this point. But somebody like Kasich, for example, or Carson may be thinking of a VP spot. They're
wondering about Carson being Surgeon General, maybe?
Well, sure. You certainly could come up with some appointments here and there. And so there makes some sense there. But other than that, all they're doing is fragmenting the opposition to Trump. And the last time around, Trump's margin exceeded both Rubio and Cruz combined. Up until this point, he's been below the combination, but Nevada, he was 1 or 2 points above their combined total. So you throw in Carson, who's obviously a anti-establishment candidate, and you got way over 50% of the turnout in that primary. So there's something going on out there, Brian, but it's kind of hard to tell what it is.
Dr. Robert Hyneman, with that...
I'll leave you with that, yeah.
You'll have to leave me.
I will. I'm leaving now.
Dr. Robert Hyneman, Alfred University professor of political science, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.